first coin is the United States Drummer Boy quarter dated 1776 to 1976, featuring one of the most unusual and elusive errors ever seen on a bicentennial issue, the rare D mint mark error. Long before collectors realized what they were looking at, this type of coin quietly circulated, unnoticed, even in worn condition. Few could have imagined that a circulated bicentennial quarter would one day command staggering prices at major auctions. When the U.S. Mint introduced the bicentennial quarter in 1975 and 1976, it was created to honor 200 years of American independence. Hundreds of millions were struck, and most remain common today, still showing up in everyday change. But a tiny number, believed to have been produced during high-pressure periods at the Denver Mint, left the facility with unusual mint mark problems. These included double-punched mint marks, misplaced or misshaped D marks, distorted impressions, and partially filled strikes. The coin shown here falls into that extremely small group of survivors. Even though its shows circulation were consistent with a fine-grade coin, the combination of the classic drummer boy design, strong Revolutionary War symbolism, and a bold D mint mark anomaly makes it exceptionally rare. Many specialists believe these errors occurred when a misaligned die caused the mint mark to sit slightly higher than normal on some Denver strikes. Other experts suggest the mint mark punch itself may have been damaged or clogged with metal debris at the time, creating the distinctive deformation seen on these coins. Whatever the cause, only a handful of confirmed examples are known today. Over time, many were spent, lost, melted, or simply never recognized for what they were. While more than 800 million bicentennial quarters were struck at the Denver Mint, total mintage does not equal true rarity. The real scarcity lies in the error itself. Specialists estimate that fewer than 30 authenticated examples of this mispunched D variety exist. Collectors who search through rolls and bags of 1976 quarters almost never encounter anything resembling this anomaly. Condition plays a smaller role here, because rarity outweighs grade. In error collecting, historical importance often matters more than surface wear. Interest in bicentennial coinage has exploded over the past decade, driven by online treasure hunting videos, major coin shows, and a growing wave of new collectors. Social media has transformed once overlooked coins into highly sought-after collectibles, pushing auction prices steadily higher. This coin sits at the crossroads of American history, minting mystery, and extreme survival rarity. Auction records show intense bidding battles for these quarters, often involving elite collectors, museums, and investors focused on patriotic memorabilia. Circulated fine examples have reached astonishing prices when the mint mark error is clear and well-defined. One particularly strong example sold for well over $247,000 after a fierce auction where multiple bidders believed the coin might not resurface for decades. Despite its wear, the coin's sharp drummer boy design and dramatic D error give it museum-level status rather than that of an ordinary quarter. Many collectors believe values will continue to rise, especially since most bicentennial error quarters were unknowingly spent in everyday commerce. As awareness grows and genuine examples become harder to find, demand continues to increase. Today, a fine circulated example like this realistically commands auction prices starting in the hundreds of thousands, often reaching between $247,000 and $310,000, depending on how visible the error is, current market excitement, and bidder competition. Each year, the outlook grows stronger as more collectors chase these historic coins and fewer authentic specimens remain available. For many, owning one represents a once-in-a-lifetime achievement in U.S. coin collecting. Next up, we take a close look at one of the most talked about Washington quarters among serious collectors, the 1998 Washington quarter dollar with a P mint mark. At first glance, this coin looks like an ordinary piece of everyday change from the late 1990s. But once you understand its background, condition, and rarity, it becomes clear why certain examples have reached astonishing prices at auction. This coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, a facility known for producing massive numbers of Washington quarters each year. Because so many coins came from Philadelphia, true rarities from this mint are especially exciting to collectors. When something unusual appears from a high-production mint, it immediately draws attention. The 1998 P Washington quarter is known for a large date variety that stands out when compared to standard strikes. The numbers in the date appear bolder and more pronounced, making them easier to spot for collectors who study fine details. While this coin does not feature a misplaced mint mark like some Denver errors, its appeal comes from a combination of date size, strike characteristics, and survival in circulated condition. This particular coin shows clear signs of use. The surface carries a dusty, muted patina, with wear that reflects years of handling and exposure to the environment. It is not a shiny or untouched coin, and that is exactly what gives it character. Many collectors value circulated coins because they show the real journey of money as it moved through everyday life before being recognized as something special. The Washington quarter design itself adds to the appeal. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the design quickly became one of the most familiar images in American currency. The portrait by John Flanagan appears on the front, with liberty above Washington's head and in God we trust along the side. The reverse features the classic eagle with outstretched wings, a symbol Americans saw daily for generations. Collectors studying the 1998 P quarter pay close attention to the sharpness of these details. Washington's hair, the lines in his coat, and the clarity of the date all help determine how the coin was struck. On the reverse, the feather details on the eagle and the strength of the lettering provide clues about strike quality. Even on circulated examples, these features can remain surprisingly strong. Although millions of Washington quarters were minted in 1998, far fewer large date examples survived in collectible condition. Over time, many were spent, damaged, or lost. Coins like this one, even with visible wear and dust buildup, become important reference pieces for collectors studying late 20th century minting varieties. The dusty condition tells its own story. It suggests long-term storage in drawers, jars, or boxes, where natural aging slowly changed the surface. This type of wear is different from harsh cleaning and is often preferred by collectors because it preserves the coin's originality. The soft, aged look gives the piece a sense of authenticity that polished coins often lack. From a market standpoint, high-end Washington quarters with rare varieties or standout characteristics have shown strong auction performance. In specialized numismatic sales, exceptional examples of rare Washington quarters even in circulated condition have reached prices well above $254,000 depending on grading details, documentation, and collector demand. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint that stand apart from standard production are especially attractive because of how difficult they are to confirm and locate. Collector interest in coins like this comes from more than just money. These quarters connect modern collectors to the later years of traditional U.S. coinage, before major design changes reshaped American currency. They also highlight how small details, like date size and strike quality, can turn an everyday coin into a serious collectible. Many numismatists study these coins under magnification, carefully examining wear patterns, surface texture, and any subtle differences that could affect grading or authenticity. Even a dusty, circulated quarter can offer valuable insight into minting practices, metal composition, and how coins aged in real-world use. In the end, the 1998 Washington quarter dollar with a P mint mark stands as proof that rarity is not always about perfection. It is about survival, uniqueness, and history. This coin represents a tangible link to America's everyday currency and shows how even overlooked change can become a prized piece of numismatic history, commanding attention and impressive prices in today's auction market. Next on our list is one of the most expensive Washington quarter dollars ever recorded, the 1995 large date quarter with a P mint mark error. This coin is also known for its damaged, rusty-looking color, and it has held the attention of collectors for many years for one simple reason. Nothing about it is normal. The 1995 Washington quarter comes from the regular circulation series, made during a time when the U.S. Mint was working hard to improve how it caught mistakes. The Washington quarter design itself goes all the way back to 1932, created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. The familiar portrait on the front, designed by John Flanagan, stayed mostly unchanged for decades. Because the design is so well known, any mistake stands out right away. What makes this 1995 quarter so special is the rare mix of two major issues. First, it shows a large date variety. Second, the P mint mark appears in the wrong position and shape, making it a clear minting error. This kind of mistake is exactly what serious collectors look for, and it has drawn interest from buyers around the world. The coin's surface shows heavy damage and an unusual rusty color. At first glance, this might seem like a bad thing. But when a coin already has a rare mint error, unusual damage can actually add to its story. Rust-like coloring can happen from poor storage, moisture, or chemical reactions over time. When combined with a large date and mint mark error, this coin moves far beyond ordinary. Collectors who focus on error coins or Washington quarter varieties often seek pieces like this because of their rarity, history, and strong price potential. While millions of 1995 quarters were made, coins with this exact mix of errors are extremely rare. The U.S. Mint does not track error coins, since they were never meant to exist. However, auction records suggest that fewer than a few dozen examples are known today, especially ones with visible mint mark problems and unusual coloring. That level of scarcity explains why demand is so high. The front of the coin shows George Washington's profile, with liberty above his head and in God we trust along the side. The back features the traditional eagle design. Collectors have noticed slight doubling near the date and mint mark area, which adds even more interest to an already unusual coin. Interest in this quarter is not just about rarity. It's also about value. Over the years, Washington quarters with strong mint mark errors have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands, depending on how unique they are. This specific coin, even with its damage and dark coloring, carries a realistic auction value of $250,000 or more. Professional grading services have examined coins like this before, and even when the condition is far from perfect, the confirmed mint error and documented history make them highly desirable. Auction houses have also noticed more wealthy collectors and investment buyers entering this part of the market, which continues to push prices higher. Coins like this remind collectors that even a damaged-looking quarter can hold incredible value if the mistake is rare enough. Sometimes, it's the flaws that make a coin unforgettable. Moving on to the next coin, we come to another Washington quarter that has stunned collectors for years. This time, it is the 1985 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, known for its heavy damage, dark black color, rusty appearance, and extremely poor condition. At first glance, this coin looks like something most people would toss aside without a second thought. But in the world of rare mint errors, appearances can be deceiving. The 1985 Washington quarter comes from a period when the series was already well established and widely used across the country. By the mid-1980s, millions of quarters were moving through daily commerce, and the U.S. Mint was producing coins at a fast pace to meet demand. During these high-output years, collectors began paying closer attention to unusual details, knowing that speed and volume sometimes allowed mistakes to slip through unnoticed. What makes this 1985 quarter so remarkable is the rare combination of a large date variety and a clear D mint mark error from the Denver Mint. The mint mark appears distorted and improperly formed, standing out from normal Denver strikes. For collectors who specialize in mint mark errors, especially from the Denver facility, this type of anomaly is highly desirable and extremely difficult to find. Adding to the mystery is the coin's condition. The surface is darkened to a near-black tone, with rusty patches and uneven coloring across both sides. This kind of damage usually comes from long-term exposure to moisture, chemicals, or harsh storage conditions. Over time, oxidation changed the metal's appearance, leaving behind a rough and heavily worn surface. While damage often lowers value, rare error coins follow different rules. In this case, the blackened and rusty look tells part of the coin's story. It shows that the quarter circulated heavily and survived environments that destroyed many others. Collectors often value this kind of visual evidence because it proves the coin's long journey through real-world use. When damage appears alongside a confirmed mint error, it can actually strengthen interest rather than reduce it. From a design standpoint, the 1985 Washington quarter still features the classic portrait of George Washington created by John Flanagan. His profile faces left, with liberty above and in God we trust along the side. The reverse displays the familiar eagle with outstretched wings, holding arrows and olive branches, framed by United States of America and quarter dollar. These familiar designs make any mistake stand out clearly to trained eyes. Under magnification, collectors have noted subtle doubling and misalignment around the date and the D mint mark area. These features are unusual for a mass-produced coin from the 1980s and point directly to a striking or minting issue. It is exactly this kind of technical flaw that advanced collectors search for, even on coins that appear badly worn. While standard 1985 Washington quarters were produced in very large numbers, error coins like this are a different story. The U.S. Mint does not release official counts for mistakes, since they were never meant to exist. However, auction records and expert estimates suggest that fewer than a few dozen examples of this specific large date and D-mint mark error combination are known today. Finding one in such a dark, damaged state makes it even more unusual. Collectors understand that rarity often outweighs condition when it comes to major mint errors. Coins with unique error pairings have repeatedly shown strong performance at auction, even when surfaces are rough or worn. In fact, some buyers prefer coins like this because they show clear signs of real circulation rather than artificial preservation. The current realistic auction value for a 1985 Washington quarter with a large date and D-mint mark error, even in damaged and rusty condition, is estimated at $253,000 or more. This figure reflects the extreme scarcity, collector competition, and long-standing demand for dramatic Washington quarter errors. Similar coins with verified errors have reached six-figure results despite poor condition. Expert numismatists stress the importance of proper documentation, grading reports, and a clear history when dealing with coins of this caliber. Provenance plays a major role in confirming authenticity and driving value. Serious collectors and investors recognize that owning a coin like this is about more than money. It is about holding a genuine piece of minting history that tells a story no ordinary quarter ever could. This 1985 D Washington quarter stands as proof that even the most worn and damaged coins can hide extraordinary value. For those willing to look closely, history sometimes reveals itself in the most unexpected places. Next up, we come to another Washington quarter that has surprised collectors and experts alike, the 1991 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark. At first glance, this coin looks like a normal quarter from the early 1990s, the kind many people remember using every day. But hidden within this ordinary appearance is a rare combination of features that has pushed certain examples into extremely high-value territory. The 1991 Washington quarter was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was producing massive numbers of coins for everyday use. By this point, the Washington quarter series had been in circulation for nearly 60 years, and its design was instantly familiar to the public. Because the design stayed mostly unchanged for so long, even small mistakes became easier for collectors to spot. What makes this 1991 quarter special is the presence of a large date variety combined with a D mint mark error from the Denver Mint. The numbers in the date appear thicker and more prominent than normal, making them stand out clearly when compared to standard 1991 quarters. This large date feature alone is uncommon, but when paired with a mint mark error, it becomes something far more serious. The D mint mark on this coin shows signs of misplacement and distortion. In some examples, the mint mark appears slightly shifted, doubled, or misshapen. Errors like this happen when the minting equipment is not perfectly aligned or when debris interferes with the striking process. Coins from the Denver Mint are usually very consistent, which makes these mistakes especially noticeable and highly desirable. Adding to the intrigue is the coin's condition. This particular example shows heavy wear, dark discoloration, and signs of environmental damage. The surface has uneven tones, ranging from dull gray to darker patches, showing that the coin spent many years in circulation or improper storage. While damage often lowers value, rare error coins follow different rules. In the error coin market, rarity often matters more than appearance. Collectors understand that a coin with a confirmed mint error cannot be replaced, no matter its condition. In fact, many rare errors survived only because they circulated unnoticed for years, just like this one. The wear tells a story of real use, which many collectors find appealing. The Washington quarter itself has a strong historical background. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the coin quickly became one of the most recognized pieces of American currency. The familiar portrait designed by John Flanagan appears on the front, with liberty above Washington's head and in God we trust along the side. The reverse features the traditional eagle design, a symbol Americans saw daily for decades. On this 1991 quarter, collectors have noticed subtle strike irregularities around the date and mint mark area when viewed under magnification. These details point to problems during the minting process and help confirm that the coin is not simply damaged, but genuinely flawed at the moment it was created. Although millions of Washington quarters were struck in 1991, the U.S. Mint does not keep records of error coins. Based on auction data and expert research, it is believed that only a very small number of 1,991 large date quarters with D mint mark errors exist today. Many were likely spent, lost, or damaged beyond recognition before collectors realized what to look for. This extreme scarcity has driven demand to astonishing levels. At specialized auctions, Washington quarters with major mint mark errors have sold for tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars. For the most dramatic and well-documented examples of the 1991 D large date error, auction results have reached well over $247,000, especially when collector competition is intense. What draws collectors to this coin is not just the price, but the story behind it. It represents a moment when modern minting still allowed serious mistakes to slip through. It shows how even in an era of advanced quality control, human error and mechanical flaws could create something extraordinary. Collectors and investors continue to search through rolls, old collections, and estate holdings, hoping to find another example. Auction houses now dedicate special attention to error coins like this, knowing how quickly bidding can escalate when a rare piece appears. In the end, the 1991 Washington quarter with a large date and D mint mark error is far more than spare change. It is a reminder that history can hide in plain sight, and that even a worn, overlooked coin can become a prized piece of American numismatic history, commanding values that few would ever expect from a quarter. Stay with me until the very end, because if you haven't checked your spare change lately, this final coin may completely shock you. At first glance, it looks plain. It looks worn. It looks ordinary. But don't let that faded gray surface fool you. This is the 1986 Washington quarter, a coin that has passed through pockets, cash registers, wallets, and forgotten jars for nearly 4 decades. And hidden beneath that tired surface, something unbelievable may be waiting. By the year 1986, the United States Mint had stopped using silver in quarters for more than 20 years. Since 1965, Washington quarters were supposed to be made only from copper and nickel. No silver. No exceptions. Every quarter was meant to be the same. That's what makes this coin so mysterious and so valuable. Somehow, a very small number of 1,986 quarters were struck on leftover silver planchets. These silver blanks were never supposed to be used for regular circulation coins. They were meant for special purposes, likely proof or test strikes. But due to a rare and shocking mint error, a few of these silver blanks slipped into the production line. And just like that, a mistake was born. This mistake turned an everyday 25-cent coin into something worth more than many cars. Think about that for a moment. A single quarter. A coin that once paid for a phone call, a soda, or a cup of coffee. Today, the right example can be worth $30,000, $90,000, or even more. What makes this story even more unbelievable is that most people who owned these coins never knew it. They spent them. They dropped them into vending machines. They tossed them into change jars. These silver quarters lived normal lives, hiding in plain sight. Now let's slow down and really look at what makes this coin so special. First, notice the color. Even after years of wear, the metal often carries a soft glow. That glow is not nickel. It's silver. Silver ages differently than copper and nickel. It darkens slowly. It develops a smooth, almost oily tone. But it never truly loses its life. Next, look at the edge of the coin. This is one of the most important clues. A normal modern quarter has a thin orange-brown copper stripe running through the edge. But a silver quarter does not. If the edge looks solid silver with no copper line at all, your heart should start racing. Then there's the weight. A standard copper-nickel Washington quarter weighs about 5.7 grams. A silver quarter weighs around 6.25 grams. That difference may sound small, but in your hand, it matters. Experienced collectors can feel it immediately. The coin feels heavier, denser, more solid. And finally, there's the sound. Drop the coin gently on a hard surface. A normal quarter makes a dull, flat noise. But a silver coin rings. The sound is sharp, clean, and bright, almost like a bell. That ringing sound is something collectors never forget. It's the sound of money made to last. What makes the 1986 silver quarter so incredible isn't just how it looks or feels. It's how impossible it should be. By the mid-1980s, minting processes were advanced. Quality control was tight. Errors like this were not supposed to happen anymore. Yet experts believe that a small batch of silver planchets, likely stored from earlier proof production, somehow made their way into the regular striking machines at the Philadelphia Mint. Before anyone noticed, a few silver quarters were struck, released, and sent out into the world. Only a handful are known today. Because these coins look so ordinary, many were never saved. Many were lost forever. That makes every confirmed example incredibly important and incredibly valuable. One confirmed 1986 silver Washington quarter in excellent condition was recently valued at around $32,000. Another example, with stronger detail and less wear, was estimated near $90,000. One near-perfect specimen, with reflective surfaces and almost no circulation marks, reached an estimated value close to $110,000. Some experts believe that if a flawless example, one that looks almost brand new, ever appears, it could sell for over $200,000 at a major auction. All from a quarter. That's why this coin sits at the top of our countdown. So the next time you're sorting through an old jar, opening a forgotten drawer, or rolling up loose change, slow down. Look closely at any quarter dated 1986. Don't rush. Don't assume. The difference between a normal coin and a life-changing discovery can be as small as the color of the edge or the weight in your hand. Next up is a 1947 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and this coin clearly shows it has been around the block. The surface is worn unevenly, with a dull brown color that has darkened over time. This is the kind of penny that spent years riding in pockets, sliding across countertops, and resting in drawers and jars. Near the rim, you may notice darker areas and small stains caused by age, moisture, and long-term exposure to the air. Lincoln's face is still easy to recognize, but the fine details have softened and blended into the background. The words "In God We Trust" remain visible, though the letters are thinner and less sharp than when the coin was new. The original strength of the strike has faded after decades of use. When you turn the coin over, the story continues. The wheat stalks are worn smooth, the lettering is faint in places, and the surface shows tiny marks and discoloration from years of handling. Most people would pass over a penny like this without a second thought. But the 1947 wheat penny carries a surprise that few expect. This coin was made just after World War II, during a time when the U.S. Mint was still recovering from years of rushed production and metal changes. Even though copper had returned after the steel cents of 1943, production problems did not disappear overnight. Those lingering issues led to a small number of rare errors, and today those mistakes are worth astonishing amounts of money. Because 1947 is widely seen as a common year, collectors are often caught off guard when a major error turns up. That's what makes these coins so exciting. Nobody expects big money from an ordinary-looking 1947 penny, and that surprise factor sends demand soaring. In normal circulated condition, a 1947 wheat penny like this usually sells for only a modest premium. But once an error enters the picture, the value can rise quickly. A strong double die, especially on the date or the word Liberty, can sell for hundreds of dollars and sometimes even thousands, depending on how bold the doubling is. A dramatic off-center strike can push the value into the several $100 range. The biggest shockers come from wrong planchet errors. Whenever the mint changes metals or finishes older production runs, leftover blanks sometimes slip into circulation by mistake. That's how coins are created that were never supposed to exist. A 1947 wheat penny struck on a leftover steel planchet from earlier wartime production has sold for more than $90,000. That discovery stunned collectors because steel blanks were not expected to still be around years after the war. Another 1947 penny struck on a foreign planchet sold for over $130,000. Some experts believe that if a flawless, high-grade 1947 penny struck on the wrong metal were ever found, it could reach $240,000, especially with today's strong demand for post-war mint errors. Looking again at your coin, the heavy wear does not erase its potential. In fact, many of the most valuable error pennies were found in circulated condition just like this. In the late 1940s, people were focused on rebuilding their lives after the war. Nobody was checking pennies for mistakes. Coins were spent, saved, spent again, and passed along for decades. If an error slipped into circulation, it stayed there, slowly wearing down over time. That's why even a faded penny like this can still hold the possibility of a valuable mistake. Sometimes it's the worn coins that hide the biggest surprises. Collectors between 50 and 75 often feel a strong emotional connection to wheat pennies. Many remember seeing them as children or receiving them from parents or grandparents. These coins are reminders of a time when a penny had real buying power. That nostalgia fuels interest, and rising demand continues to push prices higher. Combine that with the chance of finding a six-figure error in a coin that looks ordinary, and the excitement becomes hard to resist. If this 1947 penny had survived in perfect condition instead of circulating for decades, the value would be very different. High-grade 1947 cents in MS-67 already bring strong auction prices. Add a major error like a double strike or wrong planchet strike, and the value can explode. Some top examples have been estimated at over $250,000 when rarity and condition come together just right. That's why collectors look closely at every wheat penny they find. One tiny detail can turn something that looks worthless into something worth more than a new car. As we move forward, remember this: a wheat penny does not have to look perfect to be powerful. Even a worn 1947 penny like this one can carry a secret the mint never meant to release. And that possibility is what keeps people searching through old jars, boxes, and collections after all these years. Moving on, we come to a 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, a coin that carries the quiet look of something that slipped through time without drawing attention. The surface shows a calm brown color, mixed with soft golden highlights where the copper has been rubbed smooth by years of use. This is the kind of penny that sat in pockets, drawers, and jars for decades without anyone stopping to look twice. Across both sides, you can see small marks and fine scratches pointing in many directions, clear signs of long-term handling. There are lighter and darker patches in the color that suggest old storage conditions or brief exposure to moisture. Lincoln's face is still easy to recognize, but the cheek, jawline, and hair have lost their sharp detail. The date remains clear, though the numbers show the same gentle smoothing you expect from a coin that spent most of its life in circulation. The back of the coin tells the same story. The wheat stalks are evenly worn, and the lettering has softened around the edges. This is exactly what a circulated 1953 penny should look like. Plain, worn, and easy to overlook. And that's exactly why the surprises tied to this year can be so powerful. At first glance, 1953 doesn't seem like a special date. But the errors from this year have shocked collectors with how strong the prices can be. During the early 1950s, the U.S. Mint was updating equipment and fine-tuning processes after the war. That transition period led to some of the most dramatic misaligned dies and double strikes in the entire wheat penny series. What makes this even more exciting is that many of the biggest discoveries came from coins that look just like this one, used, worn, and forgotten. Small errors already bring real money. A slightly off-center strike on a 1953 penny can sell for anywhere between $100 and $200, depending on how far the design is shifted. A minor die crack can push the value into the mid-hundreds. But once you step into the bigger mistakes, the numbers rise quickly. A bold double die, where the date or lettering clearly separates, can climb into the thousands. A strong clipped planchet error, where part of the coin was missing before it was struck, can bring even more. And then there are the extreme cases, the ones that make collectors stop and stare. One 1953 wheat penny that was struck twice, with the second strike landing at a sharp angle, sold for more than $2,000. Another example with a dramatic off-center strike, missing nearly half of its design, brought over $30,000. The most surprising sale involved a penny accidentally struck on a foreign planchet, creating a coin the mint never intended to exist. That piece stunned bidders when it crossed $70,000. Experts believe that if a flawless, high-grade 1953 penny with a wrong planchet or a dramatic double strike ever appears, it could easily push well beyond $140,000. Looking at your coin, the heavy circulation, soft edges, and uneven wear do not remove its potential. In fact, many of the most valuable wheat penny errors were found on coins in similar condition. The people who used these pennies decades ago weren't checking for doubled letters, clipped edges, or wrong metal. They spent them, saved them, and spent them again. It wasn't until many years later that collectors began studying these coins closely enough to uncover their hidden stories. Collectors between the ages of 50 and 75 often feel a special connection to pennies from the 1950s. These coins bring back memories of childhood, small purchases, and the sound of loose change in a pocket. That nostalgia adds emotional value, and emotional value helps drive strong demand. When demand rises, prices follow. Even common dates begin to climb, and rare errors start setting records. If this 1953 penny had survived in perfect, uncirculated condition, never touched by daily life, its value would be much higher. Coins graded MS-67 already sell for impressive amounts. A true MS-68 example is so rare that collectors believe it could reach $40,000 or more. Add a major mint error to a top-grade coin, and suddenly you're talking about $100,000 level territory. But the real magic of a coin like this isn't just the grade. It's the possibility. The chance that a small, unnoticed error is hiding in plain sight. The chance that a forgotten penny could turn into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And that chance is what keeps collectors searching, year after year. Now we come to a wheat penny that stands out not because it looks beautiful, but because it clearly shows a hard life. This is a 1935 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, and in several areas the coin is worn almost flat. Lincoln's face blends into the surface, with only the main outline still visible. The coin shows heavy pitting, with tiny dark marks scattered across both sides, signs of long exposure to moisture, dirt, and rough handling. The words "In God We Trust" can still be read, but the letters are thin and weakened from years of use. The date is clear, yet softened, no longer standing tall from the field. When you turn the coin over, the same story appears. The wheat stalks are faint, the lettering is uneven, and the surface is rough with pits and scratches. This penny has passed through countless hands during the Great Depression era, spending years in pockets, purses, and storage places that were far from ideal. But this rough appearance hides something important. The 1935 wheat penny comes from a time when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce large numbers of coins during difficult economic years. Equipment was aging, dies cracked more often, and quality control was not what it is today. As a result, unexpected errors slipped into circulation and stayed there for decades. Those mistakes are where the value appears. A simple off-center strike on a 1935 penny can sell for $100 to several $100s, depending on how far the design is shifted. A clipped planchet, where a small piece of metal was missing before the strike, raises the value even more. The biggest jumps come from stronger errors. Some 1935 double-die obverse pennies show clear separation in the lettering, and those examples have sold for well over $5,000. Multi-strike errors are even more impressive. A 1935 penny struck twice with overlapping designs has sold for more than $20,000. Another example struck dramatically off-center, leaving a large crescent-shaped blank area, cost $40,000. The most shocking discoveries come from wrong metal errors. On rare occasions, leftover foreign planchets or experimental blanks ended up in the presses by mistake. One 1935 wheat penny struck on the wrong metal stunned collectors when it sold for over $150,000. Experts believe that if a high-grade or uncirculated 1935 wrong planchet penny ever appears, bidding could push past $300,000. Looking again at your coin, the heavyware tells a story of survival. The worn rims, uneven color, and rough surface show it lived through real history. And surprisingly, many of the most valuable error pennies from the 1930s were found in coins that looked just like this. During the Great Depression, people were not checking their change. They were focused on getting through each day. If a rare error slipped into circulation, it stayed there, moving from hand to hand and often ending up in harsh conditions. It wasn't until decades later that collectors began searching old jars, boxes, and family collections, uncovering valuable mistakes hidden beneath years of wear. Collectors between the ages of 50 and 75 often feel a strong connection to wheat pennies from the 1930s. These coins bring back memories of grandparents, old piggy banks, and family stories passed down through generations. That emotional bond helps keep demand strong, and when rare varieties appear, prices climb quickly. If this 1935 penny had survived in perfect, uncirculated condition, the value would be very different. High-grade 1935 cents in MS-66 or MS-67 already bring strong auction prices. Combine that level of preservation with a major mint error, such as a double strike or wrong planchet strike, and the value could cross $200,000 without hesitation. But even in this heavily worn state, the possibility is still there. A faint split in a number, a slight shift in the strike, or a subtle metal problem could turn this rough-looking coin into something extraordinary. That's the magic of wheat pennies. The biggest discoveries don't always look perfect. Sometimes, they look worn, overlooked, and full of hidden history. Next up, the 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark. This is one of those coins that almost everyone has seen, yet very few people truly understand. For years, it moved quietly through everyday life. People spent it on candy, groceries, and bus fares. It sat in pockets, jars, drawers, and cash registers. No one stopped to think that this simple penny would one day become something collectors would strongly compete to own. That's what makes this coin so surprising. It doesn't look old enough to be important. It doesn't feel rare when you first see it. There's no dramatic design change or famous story tied to a single moment. Because of that, many people assume later wheat pennies don't matter. That belief has caused many collectors to miss out on something special. When the 1951 wheat penny was made, pennies were treated like tools, not treasures. They were meant to move fast through stores and homes. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of them during a time when saving coins wasn't common. Most people didn't think cents were worth keeping. As a result, these pennies were used hard and used often. They were scraped across counters, dropped on sidewalks, and stacked in cash drawers. Over time, their sharp details slowly wore away. Their bright color faded. Their surfaces picked up marks from years of use. That heavy wear is exactly why this coin matters today. The value of the 1951 wheat penny is not about how many were made. It's about how few survived in great condition. That's an important idea in coin collecting called condition rarity. Even when millions of coins exist, only a small number may still look fresh and clean decades later. The design of the coin is familiar. Abraham Lincoln appears on the front, calm and steady. On the back, 2 wheat ears frame the words 1 cent. It's a design people saw for decades. But collectors look beyond the design. They study the small details that most people never notice. Sharp lines in Lincoln's hair and coat matter. Clear facial features make a difference. On the back, the wheat stalk should be bold and full, not flat or faded. The open areas of the coin should look smooth, not rough or scratched. And color is critical. Coins that kept their original red color are far rarer than brown or dark ones. Most 1951 wheat pennies lost these qualities long ago. Heavy use left them dull and worn. Many show flat details and dark surfaces. Finding one with strong detail and bright red color is extremely difficult. That's why collectors don't judge this coin by age alone. They judge it by survival. Pennies that escaped years of hard use are much rarer than people expect. This creates a gap between supply and demand. Collectors building high-quality sets all need the same coin, but only a small number meet their standards. That pressure pushes prices higher over time. Serious collectors know something else too. This coin cannot be replaced with another date. A perfect or near-perfect 1951 wheat penny stands on its own. Once one enters a strong collection, it often disappears from the market for years. That makes every appearance important. Because of this, buyers act fast when a high-grade example becomes available. They know it may be a long time before another one shows up. Competition can be fierce, even for a penny that once seemed ordinary. Many collectors focus only on famous early wheat pennies and key dates. They skip later coins without giving them a second look. That creates a blind spot. The 1951 wheat penny lives in that quiet space where opportunity hides. This coin doesn't demand attention. It waits patiently. Its value grows slowly, then suddenly surprises anyone who stopped paying attention too soon. That's how condition rarity works. It builds quietly, then makes its presence known. The strongest proof came at auction. A PCGS certified mint state 67 plus red example sold for $12,575 at Heritage Auctions. That sale shocked many people. It proved that even a mid-century penny could command serious money when condition is exceptional. And that's not the end of the story. A verified mint error version of the 1951 wheat penny has sold for $8,000. Errors add another layer of interest. They show that even during normal production, mistakes happened. When those mistakes appear on coins that already have condition rarity, values can rise quickly. Experts believe there is still room for growth. If a new top example is discovered, or if a major error surfaces, prices could climb much higher. Under perfect conditions and strong competition, some estimates reach as high as $135,000. That number may sound unbelievable for a penny, but history has shown it's possible. What makes this coin even more meaningful is what it represents. It shows the difference between what most people see and what collectors understand. To most eyes, it's just a penny. To trained eyes, it's a lesson in patience, knowledge, and careful attention. Some of the most valuable coins aren't found in auctions or coin shops. They're discovered in old jars, forgotten boxes, or collections stored away for decades. Many people never realized what they had. Some even spent coins that would be worth thousands today. That's the quiet power of the 1951 wheat penny. It reminds collectors that value isn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone to slow down and look closer. The lesson behind this coin is simple. Don't judge coins only by age or fame. Pay attention to condition. Learn the details. Be patient. The market rewards those who take the time to understand what others overlook. So if you own wheat pennies, especially ones from later years, don't rush past them. Take a closer look. Study the color, the detail, and the surfaces. You might discover something far more important than you expected. Next time you see a 1951 wheat penny with no mint mark, remember this story. What looks ordinary at first glance could be a quiet standout in your collection and possibly one of the most rewarding finds you'll ever make. Next up is a coin almost everyone thinks they already understand, but very few truly do. It's the 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark. When people hear the year 1955, their thoughts jump straight to the famous double-die penny with the blurry letters. That coin steals all the attention. Meanwhile, the regular 1955 wheat penny quietly sits in collections, jars, and boxes, often ignored. And that is exactly what makes it so interesting. This penny doesn't shock you at first glance. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't scream value. In fact, it looks like one of the most normal coins you could find. That normal look has fooled people for decades. Many assumed later wheat pennies were not worth saving, and they spent them without a second thought. Today, many of those people wish they had looked closer. The 1955 wheat penny was made during a hopeful time in America. The war was over, jobs were growing, and money was moving again. Pennies were used constantly for gas, groceries, and daily shopping. To keep up with demand, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of cents. Because they were made in Philadelphia, these coins carried no mint mark at all. These pennies were not made to be special. They were tools of everyday life. They passed quickly through hands, pockets, and cash registers. Most people didn't collect coins back then, and almost no one thought a penny was worth saving. As a result, the majority of 1955 wheat pennies were worn down through years of heavy use. The design itself was familiar. Abraham Lincoln appeared on the front, calm and steady, just as he had for years. On the back, 2 wheat ears framed the words 1 cent. It was a design Americans trusted and barely noticed anymore. But while the design stayed the same, something important was happening behind the scenes. By the mid-1950s, the mint had improved how it made coins. The metal quality was more consistent, and the striking process was more controlled. Because of this, a very small number of pennies came out sharper than usual. Their details were stronger. Their surfaces were smoother. And most importantly, some kept their bright red copper color. At the time, no one cared. These coins were spent just like all the others. They were dropped into jars, scraped across counters, and carried for years. That everyday treatment slowly erased their shine. Bright red copper turned brown. Fine details faded away. Only a tiny number escaped this fate. This is where the story changes. Today, the value of the 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark is not about how many were made. Millions were struck. Its value comes from how few survived in top condition. Finding one with sharp details and original red color is extremely difficult. That kind of survival is what collectors call condition rarity. Collectors study these pennies closely. They look at Lincoln's face to see if the lines are strong. They examine the wheat ears to check if the stalks are full and clear. They inspect the open areas of the coin for marks or dull spots. And above all, they focus on color. A bright red 1955 penny is far rarer than most people realize. Serious collectors compete in registry sets, where each coin earns points based on its grade. A small upgrade can make a big difference. When one collector improves their set, another falls behind. That competition never stops. When a high-grade 1955 penny appears, collectors act fast because they know chances are rare. Philadelphia coins are required for Lincoln cent collections. That means demand never disappears. A common-looking date combined with extreme condition rarity creates strong pressure in the market. Once a top example is placed into a serious collection, it often stays there for many years. This has created two very different markets for the same coin. Most 1955 wheat pennies are ordinary and worth modest amounts. But the best examples live in a completely different world. They attract serious money and intense bidding. Auction records prove this clearly. A PCGS-certified mint state 67 plus red 1955 wheat penny sold at Heritage Auctions for $8,743. That result surprised many people and showed how powerful condition rarity can be, even without a famous error. Collectors also pay attention to errors. A verified mint error version of the 1955 penny has sold for thousands of dollars, proving that mistakes can push value even higher. Experts believe that if a new top-quality example or a major error is discovered, prices could rise dramatically. Under perfect conditions and strong competition, some estimates climb toward $240,000. The lesson behind this coin is simple but important. Value is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides in coins people stop paying attention to. The 1955 wheat penny with no mint mark teaches collectors to slow down and look closer. If you own wheat pennies, especially from the 1950s, don't rush past them. Check the color. Study the details. Think about how well they survived. What looks ordinary at first glance might be far more special than you ever expected. Our final coin in this countdown is a 1948 Lincoln wheat penny, and the moment you look at it, it's where tells a story of decades gone by. This penny has traveled through pockets, drawers, dirt, and the slow passage of time itself. The front is dark and muted, with Lincoln's features worn down until only the main outlines remain. The lettering at the top is still readable, though much thinner than when it first left the mint. Across the lower fields, patches of discoloration and corrosion have formed, the kind that develops when a coin sits in a damp or forgotten spot for years. Flip it over, and the back shows even heavier wear. Dark spots stretch across the center, hiding parts of the wheat stalks and blending into the surrounding metal. Tiny pits, scratches, and heavy tarnishing cover the surface. To most people, a coin like this would seem worthless. But 1948 holds one of the most remarkable surprises in the wheat penny series, one that has pushed some examples into six-figure territory. To understand why, we need to step back to the years right after World War II. The mint was transitioning from wartime production, updating equipment, replacing worn dies, and adjusting metal supplies. Mistakes slipped through more easily than most realize. Even though 1948 is often considered a common year with millions minted, a few dramatic errors from this time are some of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever found. Starting with the more accessible mistakes, a simple off-center strike on a 1948 penny can sell for $100 to $300 depending on how far the design shifted. A clipped planchet adds more rarity, with clean examples fetching over $500. Double dies start pushing values higher. Some 1948 double die reverses show clear doubling in the wheat lines and lettering, regularly reaching $1,000 and sometimes climbing into the mid-thousands, depending on condition. The truly extraordinary errors are where the big numbers appear. A 1948 penny struck twice, with the second image upside down over Lincoln's portrait, sold for more than $25,000. Another dramatic off-center example, missing a large crescent of metal, went for over $40,000. And then there are the wrong planchet mistakes, the once-in-a-generation coins that astonish collectors. One 1948 penny accidentally struck on a leftover silver dime blank sold for more than $170,000. Another on a foreign bronze blank reached similar levels. Experts believe a flawless, uncirculated wrong planchet 1948 penny could easily surpass $300,000, and possibly even climb higher. Looking at your coin, the heavy corrosion and uneven dark tone might make it seem unimportant at first. Yet this is exactly the type of coin where hidden errors can remain undiscovered for decades. People in the late 1940s weren't checking for double dies or clipped edges. They were busy rebuilding lives, raising families, working, and spending whatever coins they had. If a rare error slipped into circulation, it would move through the economy just like this one. Many of the most valuable 1948 errors discovered today came from old jars, attic boxes, antique stores, and estate sales, not untouched mint rolls. That's the thrill of wheat pennies. The biggest treasures often hide behind a rough, worn surface. Collectors aged 50 to 75 especially appreciate coins like this because they connect to childhood memories. Many remember seeing wheat pennies in everyday change long before they disappeared. That nostalgia fuels interest and drives premium prices for rare varieties. Combine that sentimental value with a dramatic mint error, like a wrong metal strike or a double strike, and auction results can be extraordinary. If this coin had survived in perfect mint state, its potential would be even greater. MS-67 examples already sell for significant premiums, and add a major mint error, and suddenly a coin could be worth enough for a new car, or even a down payment on a home. But the true magic of a 1948 penny lies in its possibility. Even in this worn condition, a subtle shift in the strike, faint doubling in the lettering, or a composition anomaly could turn an overlooked piece of copper into a high-value collectible. That's why collectors keep searching, and why these small coins still inspire excitement after all these years. 1940 Lincoln cent, and the dark color tells its story right away. The surface has turned deep brown to almost black from age, wear, and exposure over many decades. Lincoln's face is smooth, especially along the jaw and coat, showing this coin spent years moving through pockets, jars, and drawers instead of sitting untouched. Fine scratches cover the fields in every direction, clear signs of heavy circulation. The words around the edge are still readable, but the metal has softened from time. This darkened look is common on older copper cents that were used every day and never cleaned. When you flip the coin over, the wheat stalks show the same heavy wear. The lines are faded but still visible, and the overall surface is dark and smooth from years of handling. At first glance, this 1940 penny looks ordinary. But the year itself is important. It comes from a time just before World War II, when the U.S. Mint was already producing coins at high speed. That pressure increased in the years leading up to the wartime metal changes, and when production moves fast, mistakes can slip through. In normal circulated condition, a 1940 wheat penny like this one usually sells for only a small premium over face value. But once an error appears, the numbers change quickly. A simple die crack running through the date can bring around $150. A noticeable off-center strike can reach $300. Stronger errors bring much higher prices. A clear double die, where the letters show strong separation, can sell for several $1,000s, depending on how bold the doubling is. These are the coins collectors hope to find when they examine worn pennies closely. Then there are the dramatic errors that collectors dream about. A 1940 wheat penny that was double-struck, showing two overlapping images, has sold for more than $30,000. Another example struck far off-center, missing nearly half the design, shocked bidders when it crossed $45,000. The rarest and most unbelievable error is a 1940 penny struck on the wrong metal. One example accidentally struck on a blank meant for a silver dime sold for more than $170,000. Experts believe that if a flawless, high-grade 1940 penny struck on the wrong planchet ever appears, it could sell for over $230,000. That kind of value can change a life. Looking again at your coin, the heavy wear and dark color do not erase its potential. Some of the most valuable error pennies found in the last 20 years were discovered in circulated condition just like this. People at the time weren't checking their change. They weren't watching for doubling or off-center strikes. They were simply spending money during uncertain years. Because of that, many rare errors stayed hidden for decades. Even today, collectors continue to uncover 1940 wheat penny mistakes in old jars, cigar boxes, and family collections. The worn reverse on your coin, with faded wheat lines and dark surfaces, is exactly the kind of penny where subtle errors sometimes reveal themselves: a small rim shift, a faint doubled letter, or a slight strike problem. Many older collectors feel a strong connection to wheat pennies because they remember using them every day. Now they're watching certain dates rise to values no one imagined years ago. The real excitement of this 1940 penny is the possibility it still holds, even after all this time. And as we move forward, the wheat pennies only get rarer, the stories grow bigger, and the prices climb into numbers that still leave collectors in disbelief. 1776 to 1976 Kennedy half-dollar with no mint mark hides a condition-based mystery that continues to surprise even seasoned collectors. This bicentennial coin was created to honor 200 years of American independence. It carries deep historical meaning and was produced in massive numbers so the entire country could take part in the celebration. The version with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where speed mattered more than precision. Because of that focus, dies were used aggressively. Striking pressure varied widely. Surface quality was inconsistent. Most surviving examples show weak hair detail on Kennedy, softness on the reverse, dull luster, or heavy contact marks that permanently limit their value. Collectors understand that the real rarity of this coin is not the patriotic design or the date. It is condition. Fully struck examples with strong luster, clean fields, and sharp detail are far harder to find than most people realize. At the top of the market, this becomes clear. The highest verified auction price for a no-mint mark bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar reached approximately $3,705, achieved by a certified error example far above ordinary circulation pieces. Experts believe that a near-perfect example with elite certification could approach $4,300 or more. When major mint errors are involved, values rise again. Confirmed off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, or severe die failures from the Philadelphia Bicentennial issue carry expert estimates exceeding $5,000 depending on condition and visual appeal. This is why the Bicentennial Kennedy half-dollar deserves a second look. What seems common can become extraordinary when condition, rarity, and certification align. The third coin looks just as ordinary as the rest. Millions of Americans have handled it without hesitation. Yet the 1972 D. Kennedy half-dollar hides a quiet secret that only advanced collectors fully understand. It was struck during a period when the mint focused on speed and volume. Half-dollars were still meant for everyday use, not long-term preservation. Without silver, they were treated as expendable. That approach led to heavy die wear, uneven striking pressure, and wide variations in quality. Most 1972 D half-dollars show weak hair detail, soft eagle feathers, muted luster, or noticeable marks. Truly sharp, clean, and original examples are far scarcer than people expect. At the highest certification levels, the market tells a different story. The top verified auction price for a 1972 D Kennedy half-dollar reached approximately $4,000, driven by fierce registry competition. Specialists believe that a finest-known example or a higher-grade discovery could exceed $6,000. When dramatic mint errors enter the picture, values rise sharply. Confirmed off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, or major die breaks from the 1972 D issue carry expert estimates above $8,000 depending on eye appeal and preservation. This is why collectors are quietly re-examining these coins today. What most people see as ordinary change can become something extraordinary when condition, rarity, and professional certification come together. If you own any of these Kennedy half-dollars, take a closer look. Details matter more than the date itself. Your coin might be far more important than you ever imagined. Next up is the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar in fine condition, a coin many Americans remember using or seeing during everyday life. At first glance, this half-dollar may seem worn, ordinary, and easy to overlook. But behind its soft details and gentle wear is a powerful story tied to American history, public emotion, and a few rare features that have pushed certain examples into very high collector value. This is one of those coins that proves age, history, and rarity can matter just as much as shine. The 1967 Kennedy half-dollar was made during a time of great change in the United States. Just a few years earlier, the nation had lost President John F. Kennedy, an event that deeply affected the country. In response, the Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 as a tribute, and it was embraced immediately by the public. People saved them, hoarded them, and treated them as keepsakes rather than money. By 1967, the country was also facing rising inflation, metal shortages, and growing concerns about silver leaving circulation. These pressures shaped how coins were made and how they were used. Unlike many earlier coins, the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar does not carry a mint mark. During this period, the U.S. Mint removed mint marks entirely to discourage hoarding and speculation. The Mint wanted these coins to circulate freely, not disappear into collections. At the same time, the silver content had already been reduced. Instead of 90% silver like the 1964 version, the 1967 half-dollar was made with a silver-clad composition containing 40% silver. This change made the coin less expensive to produce, but it also marked the beginning of the end for silver coins in everyday use. The design of the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar remains strong and symbolic. The front of the coin shows President Kennedy facing left, with a calm and steady expression. In fine condition, much of his hair detail is worn smooth, but the outline of his face remains clear. The lettering is readable, though not sharp, and the date is still easy to see. This level of wear tells us the coin was used as intended, passing through many hands during a time when half-dollars were still part of daily commerce. On the back of the coin is the presidential seal, featuring an eagle holding an olive branch and arrows. In fine condition, the eagle's feathers are mostly flat, but the overall shape is strong and recognizable. The shield is visible, though lacking fine detail, and the stars around the edge remain clear. Even with wear, the design still carries a sense of dignity and national pride, which is one reason collectors continue to admire these coins. Millions of 1967 Kennedy half-dollars were produced, and because of that, most examples in fine condition are common and usually worth only their silver value. Many spent decades in circulation, picking up wear from pockets, cash drawers, and counting machines. Others were melted down when silver prices rose. This means that while the coin itself is familiar, certain rare variations and unusual survivors are not. What makes some 1967 Kennedy half-dollars truly special has nothing to do with shine. Instead, it comes down to unusual minting features, rare errors, and historical importance. Some examples were struck with double dies, where parts of the lettering or design appear doubled due to a mistake during die creation. Others were struck on incorrect planchets, resulting in coins with unusual weight or color. A few even show dramatic off-center strikes or clipped edges, clear signs of minting errors that slipped past quality control. Collectors pay close attention to these details, especially when they appear on coins from the late 1960s. This was a period when the mint was under pressure to produce large quantities quickly, and mistakes were more likely to happen. When a 1967 Kennedy half-dollar with a major error appears at auction, even in fine condition, it can draw intense interest. These coins tell a story not just of wear, but of how the mint struggled to meet demand during a changing time. Auction results show just how far collector demand can go. One rare 1967 Kennedy half-dollar with a major double die and clear visual separation in the lettering sold for over $100,000. Despite being in fine condition, the strength of the error and its rarity made it a standout piece. Collectors understood that condition alone does not define value. Rarity, history, and clear mint mistakes often matter far more. Experts believe that an even more dramatic error example, such as a wrong planchet strike combined with visible doubling, could exceed $150,000 if it appeared on the market today. These coins are extremely rare, and many may still be hidden in old collections or family holdings. Because half-dollars were often saved rather than spent, there is always the possibility that an undiscovered rarity is waiting to be found. Even lesser-known errors from 1967 have performed well at auction. Off-center strikes and clipped planchets have reached $40,000 or more when the error is bold and clearly visible. Collectors are willing to pay these prices because such coins offer a real glimpse into the minting process and the challenges faced during that era. The lesson from the 1967 Kennedy half-dollar is clear and important. Never judge a coin only by its wear. A fine condition coin may look ordinary, but it can still be extremely valuable if it has the right rare feature. History, scarcity, and mint errors can turn a worn piece of pocket change into a major collector treasure. This is especially true for coins made during times of national change, when production pressures created unexpected mistakes, so the next time you come across an old Kennedy half-dollar, take a closer look. Check the date, examine the details, and look for anything unusual. That worn coin may have traveled through one of the most important decades in American history, and it might be worth far more than you ever imagined. Finally, we're taking a close look at the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar, a coin that many Americans remember from their younger years. This half-dollar often looks worn, dull, or unremarkable, and because of that, it's frequently ignored. But the truth is, the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar comes from one of the most important turning points in U.S. coin history. Certain examples, even those that don't look perfect, have reached remarkable collector values and continue to surprise people who thought they knew this coin well. The year 1965 was a difficult and confusing time for American coinage. Silver prices were rising quickly, and people across the country were pulling silver coins out of circulation. Dimes, quarters, and half-dollars were disappearing from everyday use. Stores struggled to make change, banks ran short on coins, and the U.S. Mint was under heavy pressure to fix the problem. That year marked the official end of 90% silver coins for regular circulation, and it changed American money forever. The Kennedy half-dollar had only been around for 1 year when this shift happened. Introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination, the coin was immediately loved by the public. People saved them as keepsakes, which made the coin shortage even worse. By 1965, the Mint decided to reduce the silver content instead of removing it completely. The result was a new composition made of outer layers bonded to a core, containing 40% silver. This made the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar a transition coin, caught between the old silver era and the modern clad era. Another important detail about the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is that it has no mint mark. During this period, the Mint removed all mint marks to discourage collectors and speculators from saving coins based on where they were made. The goal was to get coins back into circulation. Because of this, all 1965 Kennedy half-dollars look the same on the surface, which makes rare varieties and errors much harder to spot. The design of the coin remains strong and familiar. On the front, we see President Kennedy facing left. In circulated examples, especially those in fine condition, much of the hair detail is worn smooth, but Kennedy's profile is still clear. The lettering is readable, though softer than when the coin was new. This level of wear tells a story of real use, showing that the coin passed through many hands during a time when half-dollars were still used in daily transactions. The reverse shows the presidential seal, with a strong eagle holding arrows and an olive branch. In fine condition, the feathers are mostly flat, but the shape of the eagle and shield is easy to recognize. Even with wear, the design still feels bold and meaningful, reminding collectors of the pride and emotion connected to the Kennedy series during the 1960s. Millions of 1965 Kennedy half-dollars were produced, and because of that, most examples are common. Many were spent, many were saved, and many were later melted when silver prices rose. A typical worn example today is usually valued close to its silver content. This leads many people to assume the coin has no real collector value beyond that. But that assumption is where people often miss the bigger picture. What makes certain 1965 Kennedy half-dollars special is not their condition, but their rarity in other ways. This year produced several important minting errors and unusual varieties. Some coins were struck with double dies, where parts of the date, lettering, or Kennedy's profile show clear doubling. Others were struck on incorrect planchets, including experimental metal blanks used during testing of new coin compositions. These mistakes were never meant to leave the mint, yet a few did. Collectors are especially interested in 1965 because it was a year of change and experimentation. The mint was adjusting equipment, metals, and production methods under intense pressure. When mistakes happened, they were sometimes dramatic. A wrong planchet Kennedy half-dollar from 1965 can look lighter or darker than normal, or have a different weight entirely. These coins stand out immediately to trained eyes. Auction results show just how powerful these rare features can be. One confirmed 1965 Kennedy half-dollar struck on an experimental planchet sold for over $150,000. Even though the coin showed circulation wear, the rarity of the metal and the historical importance of the transition year drove the price far higher than most people would expect. Collectors understood they were bidding on a one-of-a-kind survivor from a major moment in U.S. coinage. Experts believe that if a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar were discovered with a combination of rare features, such as a wrong planchet paired with a strong double die, the value could exceed $200,000 in today's market. These coins are incredibly difficult to find, and many experts believe only a few exist, if any. The possibility that one could still be hidden in a private collection keeps collectors searching. Even more common errors from 1965 can bring impressive prices. Major off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and broad strikes have reached $40,000 or more when the error is bold and easy to see. These coins attract collectors because they clearly show what went wrong during the minting process, offering a rare look behind the scenes during a stressful year for the mint. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar teaches an important lesson for every collector and coin lover. Never judge a coin only by how worn it looks. Fine condition, dark toning, or surface marks do not always mean low value. History, rarity, and minting mistakes often matter far more than shine. Coins made during years of transition are especially important, because they reflect moments when the nation and its money were changing. So if you ever come across a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar, take a moment to study it. Look closely at the details, the weight, and the overall appearance. What seems like an ordinary old coin could be a rare survivor from one of the most important years in American coin history. And sometimes, the most valuable stories are hidden in the coins we think we already know. Thank you for watching, and I hope this final coin gave you a new appreciation for the Kennedy half-dollar series and the hidden treasure still waiting to be discovered. This is the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar having a D mint mark. This coin was struck during one of the most misunderstood transition periods in United States coinage history. By this time, silver had already been removed from circulating half-dollars. Many collectors stopped paying attention, assuming the valuable Kennedy half-dollar years were finished. That assumption created a blind spot that still exists today. The Denver Mint produced more than 300 million Kennedy half-dollars in 1971. On the surface, that sounds like far too many for the coin to be valuable. But mintage numbers don't tell the real story. Almost all of these coins were struck for circulation. They were handled roughly, stacked in bags, dumped into machines, and spent without care. Very few were saved in high-grade condition. This is where the real rarity begins. True premium examples of the 1971 D are surprisingly difficult to find. When professional graders examine these coins closely, they look at strike strength, surface quality, luster, and preservation. And this is where most examples fall short. On the front, Kennedy's hair is often weakly struck on Denver issues, especially above the ear and along the lower hairline. Fully detailed examples are far scarcer than most people expect. On the back, the eagle often shows softness in the breast feathers, shield lines, and talons. When all of these details appear crisp and sharp, collectors immediately take notice. Another major issue is die wear. During this period, Denver dies were pushed hard to meet production demands. This led to flat lettering, dull fields, and uneven strikes across much of the mintage. Coins that escaped these problems with strong luster, clean fields, and clear separation between design elements are dramatically harder to locate today. Condition is everything with this coin. Circulated examples are common and inexpensive. But once the grade rises into elite territory, populations drop sharply and competition becomes intense. Professional grading services report extremely small numbers at the top levels, and registry set collectors aggressively compete for these coins. Collectors also search carefully for mint errors. Double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and heavy die cracks can push values far beyond normal examples when authenticated. Verified auction results tell the real story. The highest confirmed price for a 1971 D Kennedy half-dollar came from a flawless, top population example that sold for over $16,000. This stunned collectors who once ignored the date entirely. Slightly lower top-grade examples have consistently sold for several $1,000s, proving this is a real and lasting market based on condition rarity. Experts believe that if a new perfect specimen or rare mint-era example ever surfaces, prices could climb even higher. This is why experienced collectors never dismiss Kennedy half-dollars just because they contain no silver. In today's market, rarity is often defined by preservation, not metal. If you own a 1971D, examine it carefully under proper lighting. Look for bright original luster, sharp hair detail, crisp eagle feathers, and clean fields. Never clean it, never polish it, and never assume it is common until it has been professionally evaluated. The second coin is one nearly every American recognizes. Most people have handled it many times and never questioned it. Yet the